Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Nick, and in this video, I want to show you how we've been able to spend over $350,000 for one of our partners and generated close to 1.1 million in returns just in this quarter alone using a creative matrix process. This is going to be something really simple to follow. All the resources that I'll share with you in this video will be below. Let's get started. So let's talk about my creative matrix process. The key to really scaling ad accounts and to finding successful winners and to really just grow your company really comes down to testing creatives pretty much 80% of the time. If you're struggling with high CPMs, high cost per link clicks, high cost per results, and really that inconsistency, you're probably not testing enough creative. And what I want to show you is a very simple process to coming up with creatives, iterating winning creatives, and really what to do when you find those winners step by step. So right here, you'll see this is my creative matrix process. And this is a super simple outline, and it really just comes down to this really easy flow. First step is just the ideation phase. It's just coming up with different ideas. How can you tap the market problems? How can you offer a really valuable solution? How can you get in front of more people that actually want your solution and that are having your problem? Through your creatives. We really do that through two very specific kinds of creatives, one being a color block and one being a blunt post. And I'll show what those look like here in a second. But the idea is to figure out at the root what is actually causing the market to want to work with you, to want to have your solution, to want to solve their problem. And these creatives really help that. From there, you do these two small micro tests with each of these creatives. And then from there, you end up with a primary ad. Now, from that primary ad, you're going to be making a few different iterations and variations of these things. So this is, and then basically you just rinse and repeat. Now, some people can skip certain steps. I'd say like not everyone needs to do a color block, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But I would recommend almost everyone to use a blunt post. And I'll show you what these look like. But one thing that I really want to make clear is that it's very easy to get caught up in what your creatives look like and comparing to what other people are doing. And comparison is going to take you nowhere. It's just going to cause more resentment for you, and you're really not going to get dialed into what your offer is and how you can bring value to the market. So don't worry too much about what these things are looking like yet. We'll get into that, but that's kind of the first phase. So here's what this actually looks like. You'll see here there are a handful of different creatives. If we just relate it to what's going on here, I want to show you what kind of each one of these steps are. And I'm actually going to skip color blocks for a moment because the process is essentially the same, but it works just a little bit different. So these right here are what I would call blunt posts. And I'll actually reorganize these a little bit. So you start with these two here on the left, right? And these are, as the name suggests, very, very blunt and to the point. They're very simple, black text, white background, white text, black background, very simple. All this creative does, the purpose of this creative is to call out the person that you want to work with, the problem that they're having, and how you can fix it, as well as a call to action. It's very simple. If this starts to work, meaning are you kind of hitting that pain point that the market is having, you evolve that creative and you take it just a step further. You can see this creative is very, very similar to this one over here. It just looks a little bit fancier, a little bit cleaner, right? And this one, although it's different copy, the same thing happened. We used this exact creative to generate almost the entire like 1.1 million that I spoke about at the beginning of this video. And what's amazing is that it started off as a very simple blunt post like this, or a color block, which is very similar. Color block is just a one big headline in two different colors to grab attention. So it would be like black up here, red down here, and then just the headline. The blunt post iterates on that by adding in a little bit more copy and a call to action. And then your kind of initial creative iterates on that even further by just throwing some spice into it. This is an airdrop one. So it grabs attention, stops people in their scroll. It's a great scroll stopper, and it gets attention. So that's really the first step here, is to really just create these blunt posts and color blocks, figure out which one is actually getting attention, and then move on to the next step, right? Now, I'll show what this actually looks like in the ads manager in a moment, but I want to keep setting the stage and kind of first tell you some things that you should be doing to kind of prep to have the best creatives you possibly can and to make sure that you can actually make creatives consistently. Because that's the biggest thing. The biggest problem is not that people are making the wrong creatives, it's that they're not making enough of them, and they're not making enough of them the right way. And they get caught up in what they look like or how they're comparing it to a competitor, or they're just not sure how to iterate these things, and then it's hard to go and execute them with their team. So I hope this, as I continue to kind of walk you through this, it gives you a good idea. So before making creatives, I always like to do some research and determine 3 things at the root of everything. First, does the product that I'm promoting satisfy a desire, need, or pain that the market currently has? The goal here is to dive into the deepest pain that we can pull from your market. So take some time. I always like to answer this one. At what level does this product serve the market? Is it a total package solution? Does it mitigate risk? Does it save time? Does it solve a greater issue? Or does it provide deeper pleasure? And then lastly, is this product already proven to sell, or are there similar products that have proven success? And are there competitors that are actually doing very well? This is such a huge question because this is where you can get a ton of inspiration and ideas for creatives to make. The thing I don't want you to do is go and compare, like I said, but if you can go to a competitor and see what they're advertising and pick up on some of the pain points that they're hitting, see if you can recreate that in a blunt post, for example, kind of like I showed here, and make it a little bit different. So that's the first thing that I always like to look at. Next is imperfect creation. 80% of the time, the simple, ugly creatives drive 90% of our results. Up-leveling your creatives will and should come later, but at first, it's usually a bottleneck and it doesn't drive results. I've had ads that have driven multiple 7 figures in sales with a typo in the ad. I'm not necessarily totally happy about the typo, right? And I'm sure that, and the client actually didn't care because he understood that the typo was actually grabbing attention. And I'm not saying to purposefully misspell something in an ad or make it look sloppy, but it's okay if something isn't super perfect. Imperfect creation, imperfect action at the end of the day is really what you got to go with. You can see here there are these 3 creatives where blunt posts over here, very straight to the point, made it look a little bit fancier here, and then we took those same things and transformed it by using a comparison with AI, an interesting graphic, and then a strong headline. So imperfect creation, don't worry about it being perfect, just worry about volume at first, and then consistent testing. So we find that testing anywhere from 5 to 10 new creatives each week is a must for all businesses. Now, the higher that you end up spending, the more that you should actually test. However, I think if you can rock with this baseline, anywhere from in between 5 to 10, you'll be in a really good spot. And I know what some of you are maybe thinking is like, well, I don't have time to make 5 to 10. I don't know what to make. Or maybe you don't have a team. You don't necessarily need to have a big creative team. You actually don't at all. All you need to have is a few ideas. And even if you just had a VA or even yourself making small iterations on current creatives you have, I'm pretty confident if you have 2 to 3 creatives that you know are solid, you could probably make a month worth of iterations based off that one creative. And I'll give you some examples because this is really the really cool stuff, because once you come up with one of these, that's the hard part done. And once you prove it, that's the hardest part done. Now it's just time to iterate. So there's a few different ways that you can iterate, and then I'll go into the ads manager and show you how I actually like to test some of these things. But first thing, so changing copy on the creative. Pretty self-explanatory, pretty simple. Just change something small here. Remove or update the call to action. Now, this is a little bit of a unique one because you may think, well, why would I remove the call to action? It actually makes the post and the ad look a lot more native. If you think about when you're scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, wherever, most of the content that you see is not necessarily paid. And there's no call to action. It's not telling you to do anything. And there's tons of engagement on it, right? You can have that similar kind of effect by just removing or updating the call to action. Next one is turning a static image into a video creative. That's pretty simple too. Let's say this blunt post is working. You could just take this, expand it a little bit, and have someone or yourself film it. You could then take that video creative and have someone else film it, friend, family member, team member, client, or hire a UGC actor to film some video ads. Simply use different colors, make the creative in AI using something like a Midjourney or even Canva. Use social proof. You don't always have to post a promise like this, just show the promise. Instead of saying, I've spent millions on ads, I'm sharing my secrets, we'll say, client Bob has spent this amount on ads and has returned this much, and then show that. Create a carousel version of the ad. This is also a really easy one. So you could have your blunt post or your initial creative as the first slide, and every other slide could be social proof, or just more variations of that creative as well. You could also then take those creatives that you have, get feedback from customers and ideas from the competition to make more variations. Super easy way. This is a very simple list that you can run through every time you want to make a new creative, and you can kind of go from there. Okay, so inside the Ads Manager, really quickly, what does this testing process actually look like? Now, I would recommend optimizing for the closest thing to the end result that you want. A lot of people for color blocks or blunt posts will tell you to do traffic, see which ones get the lowest cost per link click, and then go with that one. The only reason I don't love doing that is I would rather get some kind of an intent, some kind of an action from those people. And I actually really enjoy either a lead campaign, sending them to a landing page, or engagement. You don't need to build out a lander. You don't need to make anything fancy. And what you could do is you could set up, and I did not want to do a tailored message campaign. Facebook adds so much stuff in, like daily. But what you can do is you could have a couple of different blunt posts. I recommend one ad per ad set. And then from there, what you could test is just a very simple post where you have someone messaging your page saying that they're interested in whatever the thing is that you posted. So all these different variations that you have, all these different blunt posts here, even some creatives like this, just see if you can get messages using these variations. So that's pretty much it. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. I've got a free school community. If you're interested in getting ads feedback, ad support, I offer free ad account audits, no strings attached. If you're interested in asking questions, getting your ads reviewed, join the school community below. This whimsical file will be below as well if you want to check it out and use some of these for examples. Don't overcomplicate the Ads Manager piece of this. Go in there, test some of your creatives. Just look to see if you can get some engagement, some people to message you, raising their hand, saying they're interested in whatever it is you're offering, and then iterate and go from there. I'll see you in the next one.